Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome back to my game programming series with SDL3 and the D programming language. Now, today I'm going to show you how to set up the D programming language on Windows, but through the Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL. And this is kind of cool because you get to use all of the awesome Linux features. I mean, that's sort of where I live, but on your Windows machine. And why this is sort of important, especially if you're developing a game or applications, because all of a sudden you can target two platforms. You can do the Linux stuff in Windows Subsystem for Linux, which I've just found as a nice developer experience anyways. And then you can also have all of your code readily available on Windows to sort of test and make sure you have the right abstraction layers to support both platforms. Again, I think that's something of real value. And of course, if you're using the D programming language, I find D a very productive language to work in. So anyways, hopefully you enjoy this video and hopefully don't have too many errors with setting things up. It's pretty easy and I go through all the steps. I'll try to show you a few different trouble points, and I'll even show you MobaX if you do have trouble for whatever reason in WSL popping up a window. And sometimes this is also helpful if you're having trouble with getting like GPU support or something in WSL. So there's a few different options. Hopefully this video shows most of them. And anyways, with that said, folks, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and do some awesome deprogramming with SDL. Alrighty, folks, today we're going to be talking about the D programming language, which you can find here on my website if you want lessons here, or YouTube where you're probably watching this. And we're going to be talking about SDL, which I also have a bunch of resources for. So let's get that out of the way and just show you those resources very quickly here. Again, I've got a C++ playlist here, which has a bunch of videos, including stuff like how to install SDL on various platforms. Now today we're going to be talking about D, but there are other videos here that will be related because the API is basically the same. The D programming language website is otherwise going to be helpful for you for getting set up. And again, today we're talking about setting up SDL specifically on the Windows Subsystem for Linux. So if you don't know about SDL, check out some of my other videos that I have here. But basically, it is a cross-platform programming layer designed to allow you to do things like create a window, use your keyboard, mouse, use hardware accelerated graphics, OpenGL, Direct3D Vulkan, Metal, Direct3D12, etc. from the same code base. It's a really, really nice library, and it is basically, the good news is it's written in C, so we can use it with some of the bindings available. The specific bindings that we're going to be using here are going to be for the D programming language, and we're going to use the bindbc bindings here. Now today we're talking about Windows Subsystem for Linux, meaning you're probably on a Windows machine, so you can watch my video on Windows. You can also watch my videos on Linux if you also have setup issues, because again, I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to kind of go through this. I'm going to show you everything from scratch. This is your one place to look, but again, if you have trouble, you can look on the D playlist towards the start here to find some of those videos related to setting up SDL. And occasionally, you know, if you refresh this, it'll update, and you'll have more videos there as I support more platforms, or again, the C++ playlist is useful. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. Now, the first thing that you're going to need to do is install Windows Subsystem for Linux. A Google search will usually help you here, but I'll go ahead and show you the general thing here. Usually, if you just search for the Microsoft Store, you'll find, if you search Ubuntu, you'll find a version of Ubuntu here. Now, I'd recommend installing the latest one. Mine at this time looks to be 24.04. If you find version 25, even better, that'll make your installation smoother, let's say. And then you'll go ahead and have to just download this. I'm not sure exactly which version I have here, but I'll show you. But again, the later versions are usually probably better depending on what you're doing here. So I think it looks like I have, let's see here. Let's just search WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. I have that installed. It's generally pretty easy to install. Let's see here. What's going on? Problem with the shortcut. Okay, I guess I got to do an installation. So great. You'll see this install process captured. It's usually pretty fast, but the cost is waiting for the download, I suppose. All right, so there we go. You will see a terminal launching here. And let's just give it a second. It is booting up an entire operating system. It looks like I have quite an old version. That's no problem, though. I'll still show you how to get up and running here. Now, why could it be a problem to have an older one? Well, it's not. I'm just going to have to show you how to do things from source. But effectively, to get SDL3 at this point, you can probably just do sudo apt search libsdl3, and then whatever your password is, which I never remember my password for whatever I set up here. Okay, so I guess libsdl3, again, is not searchable on 20, so you might need to do stuff like sudo apt update and add packages, etc. I'm not going to really show you how to do that. Again, if you're on 2504, I believe you can just do sudo apt install libsdl3, and you want the dev version, okay? And then you just hit enter, and it should find it. But again, I'm on a old version of Ubuntu here, older, but it doesn't really matter. So anyways, this is an entirely, its own operating system running in this window on Linux. So that's the goal here, okay? So that's what Windows Subsystem for Linux is, if you're not sure here. Now, let's go ahead and see where we're at here. I think I need to cd into some directory. Then I can get to my C or D drive on my Windows machine. That's likely what you want to do. Otherwise, you can cd back into, let's see, if you go back a directory, you'll be in your home. This is sort of on the Linux directory. I tend to, if I'm working on Windows Subsystem for Linux, want to work into my C drive, and then go into my users location. Let's see here, cd users plural, and then that's my name here. And I do have a SDL example that I will create here. We'll just do one here, WSL DSDL3 here. So let's just go into that directory here. Okay, great. Now what do I need to do here? Well, I need to obtain the SDL library here. So I can go to, I'm going to do this from source, as I told you. So let's go ahead and download. Let's clone the GitHub repository here. And if you don't have Git, go ahead and check if you do something like Git version. If you don't have that, then do sudo apt install Git. Okay, it says it's already installed. You're also going to need to do something like sudo apt install make. Okay, I already have that. Sudo apt install gcc. I already have that. Okay, so you don't need to worry about this so much. Sudo apt install build essentials is usually what I recommend, folks, or build essential, and that'll give you all the build tools. Okay, so you can also run that. And because SDL is a C-based library, right, we need some of these tools here. What's the last one you're going to need? CMake is usually it. Okay, and I guess CMake 3.163 is fine. We'll see here. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to clone this repository and build SDL3 on my WSL. Okay, so I am in a nice folder to do that. So let's clone the repository. There we go. Just give that a moment to clone in here. Should be relatively fast depending on your internet connection. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk through this part here. And let's see, what else are we going to need? Well, we're going to need the decompiler as well. We'll get to that. Generally, that's really easy to install as well. We can run the install script. And a few other notes here. And I'm demonstrating this on a small, an older, rather, installation of Windows 11. And this is WSL1 here. So this may work just fine. In WSL2, if you have it, or WSL3, if this is in the future, might even work better, okay? So, the newer machine you're on, probably the smoother the process, although this process itself is probably pretty smooth overall. So, we shouldn't have to worry too much here. Okay, so let's see. The installation is almost done. So we're going to go ahead and, now that we have this directory here, SDL, I'm going to make a build folder, cd into that build folder, and then run cmake, which is basically going to check the prerequisites here to make sure that I have all that I need to build. And cmake is a tool that allows me to do, basically, it's a meta build system that'll generate a build file, a make file for us. On Linux is the default, that we will compile the shared SDL libraries. Okay, so again, this window that I'm running in, this is Linux here. So again, we're in Linux world here, where it's installing everything. What's kind of neat though is you can share your files very, very easily. And let's see how that's running. And generally speaking, again, just to talk as this is getting installed, WSL2 I think has more integrated support with things like your GPU, There's probably options somewhere, though I don't usually mess with them, if you want to allocate more resources to WSL. I think it's otherwise just using most of the machine, but somebody in the comments can feel free to correct me on that. So yeah, if you hear my fan spinning in the background, I apologize for that, but that's probably because whatever this download's doing is taking up some time to do, okay? So while that is downloading, let's just go ahead and let's go to the DLang webpage here. And we are going to want to go to other downloads here. And there is a download script. I'm going to try from just the package manager to see if I can install DMD too, but otherwise there's a script here. Let's actually just use the script here. I think that's going to get us the latest version here. So just hold on to that. And yeah, anyways, this CMake is taking a little bit longer than expected. So anyways, what we're going to do next after this is run make, assuming everything is found here. It looks like most of the stuff's being found. And the reason I was saying that a newer Ubuntu for WSL is going to cause less problems. I mean, this shouldn't cause any problems, but the reason it will cause less problems is the newer WSLs that support newer Linux versions have newer compilers, newer C compilers that are handy for compiling the SDL libraries. They're probably more efficient. I mean, that's usually the goal, that they don't have regressions and slow down and so on. But anyways, that is the idea. So let's see. Now, I think we can open a new tab here. Let's see if we can do that. No, this is giving me PowerShell, which is not what I want, okay? So I guess that was a good mistake to make. Right, this is Windows PowerShell. This isn't Windows Subsystem for Linux. That's this tab here. This is something else. So sometimes I'll see people mix things around, or they'll start compiling, you know, files that they find on their Linux drive or that were compiled for Linux. And here, these are different things. This is in Windows world now, right? If you see Windows PowerShell, this is in Linux world here, where we launch things, okay? So just keep that in mind. Try to keep track of where you're at in case you open up a different window. So that's one note. The other note that I'll make, just since we're still waiting for this to finish building, is that oftentimes it is possible that some of the keyboard input stuff can be a little bit weird with WSL. So just keep that in mind because you're in a like emulated window. Okay, so anyways, that's just a note for the future that I'll mention, and maybe folks can talk more about it if you know about the reasons for that. But anyways, let's go ahead and do our build. I'm going to do a parallel build. That's what -J12 is doing to try to speed this up and build the SDL3 library. So basically, this is going to compile all the files in parallel. If this doesn't work, just type in make without the -J12 for whatever reason. But again, I'm trying to speed this up so that we can get up and running as soon as possible here. But generally speaking, this works pretty smoothly here. So we're at 13%. It's scanning some dependencies, and it's taking its time here. Now, anyways, one of the other things that I can do is just pause this video, and we will just fast forward. Okay, so that's fast enough here, and we are ready to go. Now, the last thing that we're going to want to do here is a sudo make install. And basically, that's just going to set up all the paths for us so that we can link to SDL relatively easily. Okay, so that's just the idea there. So you'll see some of these things here, like, again, the paths being moved to the include directories and so on, which are default places where compilers look for things. If you have this tool pkgconfig, this is a good way to test like the flags and stuff for SDL3. Again, this would be for a C or C++ compiler, but that's how you'll know it's sort of installed and it finds it in a default location. Somewhere there is a usually an SDL, like a .pc for pkgconfig file here that'll install. And again, it knows where all the include directories are and so on. So anyways, that's that here. So now let's go ahead and make sure that we install the D compiler. So again, I'm just copying that string from here. You could probably find in your package manager otherwise a way to install D. Let's go ahead and run this just to see if it gets a later version, 2.111 of the D programming language. That's kind of ideal here. And you can run this activate script if you want. Let's see what version I have before we do that. 2.102. Yeah, it's a little bit older here. So let's run source, dlang, and then the DMD compiler, activate, just to have a later version of it. And then if I run version here, there it is. So you can set up symlinks and all these sorts of things here. And if you look in this path where dlang is, that's where you can find all of your compilers. In fact, let's just do it here. I think in the bin, or maybe it is just DMD here. Let's see, version. You can just, let's see here. What is this command doing here? Let me just move us here. Oh, I guess that didn't take me to that path because that's a legal path here, but something like this. Anyways, we'll activate wherever. You can look at the script here to find it. So let's move back here and not get too distracted from our goal here. Now we have SDL. Okay. We have a later version of or up-to-date version of DMD. We have SDL installed. Now we just need a test program. So where can we get a test program? We could go ahead to the wiki here. And usually what I do is go to the index and find some function like SDL, create Windows, usually what I'm using, because it has a nice example that'll pop up a window. Let's see if that's true here. SDL create window. This is on the SDL2. Be careful about that. Let's make sure that we go to SDL3, the SDL create window example there. And let's just use this as a reference here. I kind of know already what to do here, but anyways, I'll just leave it up here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just somewhere in our little directory here, let's just make a example. And I'm going to be using dub, the package manager in D. So let's go to the D programming language page here. And the package we need is bindbc. So you can search for SDL here, SDL3, and bindbc is the one that's going to come up here. And this is the particular line that we'll need to add the dependency here. So let's start with that. And let's leave this to the side just so you can see what we're doing. We're going to do dub init to start a new project here in our folder. Let's go ahead and it already gave us a name for the directory that we're in here. It's a minimal application. You can choose your license, copyright, and dependency. So again, it's not SDL3 that's going to give an error. It is bindbc.sdl. And then if you want to add anything else, you can, or you can always come back and add dependencies later. But that will create this project for us. Okay. And I guess it created it already in this folder. That's fine. But anyways, here's the dub.json, our source. And I guess here's our SDL libraries that we compiled already. That'll be the dependency. But anyways, let's try this out here. So again, if you look at your dub.json, you can see the dependency here highlighted. Just run dub. And the first time it runs, it's going to spend a little extra time making sure it has all the dependencies and downloading them. And those usually go in a .dub folder somewhere, packages, and you can find the SDL222 package. Okay, just in case you're curious about where that is. Okay, but let's just see here again on the selections, any other dependencies related to bind SDL were otherwise installed there. Okay, and it dub works, so that's good. Our deinstall is working here. And the reason it's just printing out edit source/app to start your project is, well, let's look at what is in source app here. It's just printing that out here. Okay, so that's where we need to write our SDL program. Okay, so I can get rid of this, get rid of this, and let's go to our create window stuff. And let's go ahead and write a little application here. Now we need to import bindbc.sdl. That was our thing that we set up here. And let's go ahead and make this window just a little bit smaller here. And I'm going to just go ahead and create our window. Window equals SDL. Create window. D on WSL. That's good enough. 320 by 240. We'll just make a small little window. And we need some flag. You can just pass in 0, but I usually do SDL window always on top so I can see it pop up above me. And then I'm just going to put a SDL delay here for 3 seconds just so we can see it. And then I'll do SDL destroy window and pass in the window here. Okay. Now let's make sure that we do this totally right here. SDL window, this is the type here. And that's our basic program here. Okay, or the basic way that I'm going to set it up. Now we do need to initialize SDL. That's let's see if I can make this always on top. I don't know if I can. But we do need to initialize SDL before we use it. If we don't do that, we'll get a seg fault before we call any other function. Okay, and then we do also need to quit SDL. Okay, so I am going to do that, but I'm going to do that in a different file here. Where I'm going to do that, let me do bindbc.sdl. I'm going to use basically what's on the GitHub page for the dependency that we downloaded here. And basically, again, we can link things in statically or dynamically with this library. I'm going to show you how to do it with this sort of dynamic linking here. So anyways, this is showing how to select different versions and so on of SDL, so you can do that. But again, this is the basic idea if you do the static linking. It's actually very simple. I'll show you the dynamic one because that's kind of what an example is for. And then you can use all these other things like image, mixer, net, and so on. So basically, I'm going to copy this chunk of code down here, and we're going to create this in a different little file here that I like to use for initializing my SDL. So let me create a new tab here. I'll call it SDL abstraction.d. Let me make sure I'm in the right folder too. Source SDL abstraction.d. Let's paste this in here. Okay. I'm not on Windows, so I'm going to ignore this, right? This is running in Windows Subsystem for Linux. It's a Linux machine. I'm going to get rid of the comments. You should read the comments, but I'm going to make a module constructor. So this is going to be shared static this. And basically, what this is going to do here, let's indent this so you can see. I'm going to get rid of the comments just so you don't get too distracted. This is a bunch of error handling stuff that is handy. The only line I really care about is this one here. That's going to load the SDL library, okay, this line that I've highlighted here. And that's going to find the SDL shared object library and load all the bindings for us. And how it's going to do this is basically this is what's known as a module constructor. That might be something kind of new to you, but basically it means as soon as I import this, import SDL abstraction, basically those module constructors get called before main, which is going to take care of things like after I load SDL, handle any errors. Then I'll call my SDL init, SDL init video, SDL init events, like any subsystems I want, I can do there. And usually I put this in an if statement, something like this. I'll say, okay, if it initialized, whoops, let me go to the end of the line here. If this initialized successfully, then I'll write line SDL initialized successfully, like that. And then I can do any error reporting if I need to. Okay, let's make sure that we import standard out, standard in, standard out, so I can print out messages. Then I also do want to shut down SDL. So shared static this, and it's destructor for the module, which basically means that it'll get called here at the end of main, right? When our program's terminated. So again, if you're writing a game engine or something, you might want more control over this when SDL quits and init are specifically called. But again, this works fine for just learning SDL. SDL shutting down. So something like this here, okay? All right, so that's the gist of it here. Let's go ahead and see if we made any syntax errors and try to run this with dub, okay? So if I run this with dub here, looks like it's pretty much running. And look at that, we got a window. That's great news here. So it looks like whatever update I have on WSL is working here, and you get a nice little window here. That's brilliant here. And SDL initialized successfully, showed it for 3 seconds, and then that module constructor's called at the end where we shut down SDL. Now I will post the code here so you can go ahead and see it, so no problem there if you're worried about that, but this is brilliant. Now, I do want to show you one other thing here. This is something that I show on my C++ series with SDL3 as well, is to say, what if you didn't get a window here? What if you got like some export display, you know, cannot display window type of error thing because, I don't know, your WSL is really old or something, or you're using a different type of emulator. One thing you can do, and let's see if I have it here. I think I might have it here. MobaX personal. I guess I've installed this version here. Moba is an X windowing tool here. And basically, you can download the free version if you really like it. You should support, developers, and you can buy the professional version if you need those things. But just download this, and you can run it, MobaX term, and you can see I have the window here. And it looks like I already have a WSL instance, but for your WSLs, you just double click on whatever sessions. I think it'll recognize them. If it doesn't, I think you can go to like terminal and then new session. And then I think you can find like your WSL here at the end and just click on it. Okay, that's how I got that, I think. Let's see, now refuse that connection, maybe because I already have it running. That could be the issue. But let's cd into the same location here. Users, my name, and then WSL DSDL3. Okay, so same location as was here, this location. And now, saucer run dub, it's the same thing. I guess it's got a refetch for its environment here. Let's see. Okay, so this was complaining here. Do I have DMD? I've got the older version here. I wonder if I needed to do activate or something here. Let's see. What did we do when we installed this here? So somewhere, if I scroll way up here, let's see here. So you might have to make sure that your compiler is set up here. Yes, this source activate thingy. Let's do that. Source, dlang, what is it? Then the compiler version, I think, DMD 211, whatever. Activate script here. Let's see if that works here. And then I'll run dub. That might have been a different version or a different build or something. There we go. All right, so just be careful about that. But now I got another window here. This is doing the X forwarding for you. And again, same thing, but it's running on another window. And that's only if the WSL thing isn't working. That's just something I've seen folks run into. Historically, that was a problem. I think WSL has largely taken care of that. It looks like WSL or WSL2 now just supports the X window forwarding thing. But again, for whatever reason, if you have problems with that, that'll take care of it. So you can run graphical applications. Now, the last thing that you might have to think about is when you get into hardware accelerated rendering, there might be other options to change around in WSL. Like you might have to configure something that I never remember and usually have to Google. But generally speaking, I haven't had that problem with MobaX where I have to like enable any GPU stuff. Okay, so it's just using my graphics card. So those are two options for you. The third option, of course, I'll probably add a video in my D language playlist otherwise, is that you can always install VirtualBox on Windows or VMware Fusion or whatever the latest thing is, and also use those. So anyways, those are some options to get started with forwarding. Let's just run our lovely application one more time. There it is. Nice empty window here. And we'll shut that down. Or again, probably the preferred option is just to use WSL if you can get away with it. And basically you're in a Linux environment in Windows. And what's really even cooler is if you follow my other D language lessons, right? You saw me set this up on Windows. You can now test on Linux here in this nice window. And then you can go on your Windows machine and test. And all of a sudden, you're supporting two platforms, which is pretty cool. So anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this one up here, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson and saw the full install and hopefully didn't have too many problems. And again, just to recap, sudo apt install lib sdl3-dev. Hopefully as simple as that. Otherwise, we did it by source, which was also pretty simple to set up your machine with. We installed DMD. You may or may not have to activate the version depending on how you set it up. So just be aware of that. And then we found a little test program, SDL create window. Again, this is in C++, but the D stuff's pretty close. Sometimes you have to change a type or cast something, but that's pretty much it. All right, so I think I'll leave folks with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll look forward to your discussions below.